Yes, guys, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you may be calling from and watching from. I am Rob, I am joined by Reese, and I am delighted to be joined by Mr. Dan Ball. Thank you so much, mate, for taking the time out of your afternoon to spend time with us. Very much appreciated, mate. Thank you.
Of course, excited to chat with you guys.
Awesome job, mate. Reese, top man for sorting this out, mate, as always. Love to get different dynamics of people involved in football on our shows, so looking forward to this one. It's going to be a good one. Welcome to you all in the chat. Don't forget to get your questions and comments in along the way. You know the drill by now, so any questions you have for Dan or for whoever, just give us a shout and we can put them to him towards the end or during the show, depending what the question is. But yeah, without further ado, Dan, if we can get kicked right off, talk us a little bit about your journey then, because obviously you mentioned before we went live, you're not an American native as such. If you can share with the beautiful people how it all came about, if that's okay, mate.
Yeah, so late 2010, there was a guy who played at my club back home. I'm from Kent, who went to a school in Boca Raton, which is just north of Miami. And he was posting some pictures, and I thought going to the US would be a really cool thing. Like my mum and dad didn't go to university, so I decided to embark on that, and that involved putting together a PowerPoint presentation. I sat my mother and father down and said, "This is kind of what I want to do. Here are the financial implications." And I found my way to a small private school in East Tennessee. Very different from where I came from, for sure. Very different to the kind of school I thought I'd end up at. So 2011, I moved to Johnson City, Tennessee, and that's where this US adventure began.
How much of a culture shock was it, to go from, you mentioned earlier, from Kent to up sticks and go to the US? How different is it, initial reaction to being around different people from different walks of life, etc.? Was it hard to get settled in to begin with, or was it?
Have you guys been to the US?
No, yeah, I haven't, mate. No,
I've been to Tennessee.
Okay,
been to Tennessee myself.
I visited the US on vacation probably 6 or 7 times prior to landing in East Tennessee. I'd been to Florida principally, so to arrive in East Tennessee, somewhere you wouldn't go on vacation, was eye-opening. I knew I was going to a place where religion permeated society, but I landed slap bang on the buckle of the Bible Belt. There's absolutely zero doubt about that, which took some getting used to. The school I went to is 1,200 people. The school I work at now is 25,000 people, and every other weekend they put 90,000 people in a football stadium. So for me to wind up at a small private Christian liberal arts college in Northeast Tennessee, it's fair to say it was a shock. And about 4 or 5 weeks in, I said to my mum and dad, "I don't think this is for me," and I wanted to transfer. And one of the best things that my dad ever said to me was, "No, I think you should stick it out." And I was one of only 2 English people. Our entire team was international, but we had people from all walks of life. And yeah, and now I sit here in 2025, having lived in 9 states, worked at 5 colleges, 2 professional teams. It's been a whirlwind, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's just memories of a last lifetime, isn't it? That's just superb, isn't it? To go there on vacation for so many times, let alone to visit so many states from a working point of view and an educational point of view is awesome, mate, to be fair. And yeah, it's quality. I love that.
One thing we've spoke to other footballers, and they've said, Carv Denise said he flew from Ireland and lived in England at 13, 14 years old. Was it easier adjusting because you were a bit older, rather than being a teenager and moving away from home?
I don't really know. It was the only thing that I felt that was the same was we spoke the same language, but little things like people say grace before you eat dinner, and that took me by surprise. After a game, they would say a prayer of the other team. That took me by surprise. Whilst the UK is the church and the state are intertwined, don't really interact with it much back home. And over here, living in that part of the country, the two were one, which in some respects was a blessing. But I got to travel a lot. I have friends that are from all over the world as a result. And ultimately, it set me up for what has been a crazy professional adventure in the time since.
Enquiries.
As I say, John, you said it's like the Bible Belt sort of state. What's football like in that kind of state? I can imagine in Nebraska it's probably a lot more popular, especially because the women's game is so massive now. But back then in the Bible Belt, what was like football in a state like that actually like? Was it popular at all?
I'm going to go. I'm not going to go state first. I'm going to go country back in 2011. So 2011, like watching the Premier League on TV in the US was difficult. You'd have to wake up at 4:30, and in the subsequent years, kickoff times have changed back home to accommodate this growing audience in the US. I played at a small school. We had ETSU down the road. Like college men's NAIA and Division II soccer at the time was popping. I played the NAIA, which means there weren't really any rules. So we had a 27-year-old freshman who played for Kenya. We had a 25-year-old central midfielder who played for the Cayman Islands. We had people from all over the place. But in my time since, like the sport has grown exponentially. Obviously, the MLS has grown, the NWSL has grown. The money that's fallen into college soccer has grown. We played 4 weeks ago. We chartered a jet for 5 days and flew from Nebraska to play Penn State. Went from Penn State to Ohio State back to Lincoln, Nebraska. It probably cost our school, I don't know, $100,000, which is insane. So, yeah, the sport has grown exponentially over here, but in Tennessee, especially now, there's an MLS team. I think it'd be a really good NWSL market when that league looks to grow. There's no doubt that football, i.e., US American football, is the sport in East Tennessee, especially on a Friday night with high school. But soccer has grown in a way that I couldn't have foreseen 14 years ago.
That always blows my mind when I see high school attendances for American football. Like they pack out stadiums for that sort of thing. I mean, you say when our school paid for a jet to go play a game, like we just got a school bus to go to a game, we would, and break down halfway. Do you know what I mean? And have 4 parents there. That's it. So yeah. I mean, the attendances are wild, especially for American football.
There are levels. So the school that I went to, I was an all right goalkeeper. I'm a way better coach than I was player. But the school that I went to, was on the lower end of budget, right? And if you were to Google the University of Nebraska's athletic budget, I'd be astounded if it comes back anything less than $200 million. Like the head football coach at our programs at our school is making $10 million a year as part of his contract. As part of his contract, he gets 50 private jet hours a year. So not everything is like the school that I find itself at now, but it's definitely the end that I would prefer to operate at.
Yeah, 100%.
It's mad doing things like that, though. But so obviously the facilities, and I'd reckon are top-end facilities that you've got now then, especially for people coming through, youngsters coming through, the best chance at the very early age, like.
So we play in the Big Ten. So in our conference is UCLA, Penn State, Ohio State, some of the biggest schools in the country. And with that comes resources, infrastructure, facilities. I'll give you an example. So a year ago, the University of Nebraska built the training table. You should Google this. It's actually wildly impressive. So all of our athletes, I'm going to say there are 300 athletes on campus, get to eat there 3 times a day. When you walk, this is not a dining hall. This is a top-end restaurant. You'll walk in, there are lobster rolls, there are crab legs, there are T-bone steaks. And the reality is lots of it exists as a result of football, right? Like our athletic director gave a press conference 2 weeks ago, and he says a home football game is worth $10 million to our university. So making sure that the guys on that sport, like a revenue-generating sport, can do what they need to do from a nutrition standpoint, from a weight standpoint, is really important. And we as a women's soccer program benefit from that.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Again, it's better than most academies in the UK, that is. Do you know what I mean?
I was just going to say, and I think it's not even necessarily just academies either. Like, I'd go as far as saying the setup is, you look at the Football League pyramid, the setup you got over there is probably tenfold better than a lot of Football League clubs, professional, men's Football League clubs over in the UK.
Yeah, I'd go as far as to say that it's beyond Football League clubs. There are Premier League teams that come to look at US college and professional facilities for ideas. The resources are incomprehensible. Our football team, when they travel, they'll charter a Boeing 777 jet. That doesn't happen in the Premier League. The resources are mind blowing. Like as an assistant coach, so let's say that on the football program here, there are 15 assistants. Like the lowest run assistant coach is going to make 350 grand a year. It's serious money, but now like it's become in Nebraska is like college football is the thing. And these people go on to play in the NFL. And now it always used to be that college sports, you couldn't pay. That was the differentiator. You couldn't pay people to play. And now the quarterback at Nebraska is 19 years old and makes $3 million a year.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, so college sports are definitely an interesting sector with how things are moving forward.
Is that through sponsorship he makes that, or is it directly paid by the college, is it?
So now it's paid via the school. There are contracts. The last 18 months in this country has been it's completely shifted the paradigm as to what college sports and professional sports always were. It was always you went to college with a hope of going pro and making money. But now there's lots of money in college basketball and college football. Our women's volleyball program is the best in the country. They'll get 12,000 people every game, and they make money too. So
I want to take you back just very quickly, if I may. How was the reaction to you coming over from the US citizens, etc.? Did they take to you instantly, or did you find it difficult to, on a social level, be able to be comfortable around you, etc.?
I think it's fair to say it probably took a little bit of time. There are times now when I realise that certain things that would fly back home don't fly here.
Yeah.
I've spent the majority of my adult life here. So yeah, it definitely took a period of time. There are times that you would say things, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that wasn't received very well.
Yeah.
But then you recognize that this country is so vast that what exists as a societally acceptable and normal one coast doesn't exist on the other.
Yeah.
And there is a spectrum in between. I've been privileged to have worked coast to coast, and something that I'm very intentional about when I move jobs is I drive, because it's a way to appreciate the magnitude and differences across the country. And when you drive across this country and you realize that we just got back from LA yesterday. We're in LA for 5 days. And when you walk down the street in LA, no one says hello to you. Like, it's people, business, just walking. You get back to Nebraska and you walk down the street, people say hello, smile, and stop to talk to you. So when I come home, I'll come home once a year and go to Asda or Tesco. I find myself smiling at people walking down the aisles, and people think when I smile at them that I am weird, when actually I'm just weird. It's just a very, very, very different world.
It's incredible, mate. It's truly incredible. I absolutely love it.
It's got a Wales, mate. Everyone says all Wales, doesn't they, to be fair?
Yeah.
We're all super friendly.
Do you know what? I know, that's what I was thinking. When you were saying that then, it's the difference between walking around London, for example, and I mean, no one wants to say hello to you, for example, but then you come up Caerphilly Newport way, and then you say, how's it going, mate? You all right? How's it going? Yeah, sound. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's literally what it's like, but obviously in a much more massive scale, of course, to what we're used to. It's incredible. Exactly. So am I right in saying that you do is it just the assistant coaching you do, or is there anything else that you do as well, work related?
Meaning what? So
like, do you do like one-to-one coaches and things like that then? Coaches
I am our goalkeeper coach. On our staff we have 2 other assistants and our head coach. So my principal responsibility is making sure that our goalkeepers are as good as they can be. I got here in March. My other responsibility is set pieces and restarts, and that's been the same in all the places that I've been.
Excellent.
I wanted to ask, right? So I know with college football, American football sort of thing, there's a pathway. There's the draft. They go on to sign pros. What's there for the soccer side of things? Is there like something similar, or is it not quite there yet?
Yeah, so the ecosystem is, I wouldn't even say it's not quite there. There is this conversation, I suppose, around making things a European, like similar to the European structure over here. So I spent 3 years coaching in the NWSL, which is the highest professional women's league in the world. They just got rid of the draft. So now the entry system to the league is the same way it would be back home, is that colleges have effectively become academies. And now, as opposed to you getting drafted in a certain round and that round equating to what you'd make as a salary, now you could negotiate whatever you want as long as it falls within the salary cap of the team and they perceive your value as that. Men's college soccer is a bit different. Like I believe there is still an MLS super draft, but MLS teams also have academies. NWSL teams, professional soccer teams, don't have academies. So college will still serve as the primary driver of bringing in young talent. But now the reason that the NWSL did that was to compete with the WSL back home and the other European power leagues.
Does the college get reward? Do you get rewarded for players going up?
No, and that's an interesting no. But there are positive ramifications for recruiting. So I'll give you an example. Like we played UCLA on Sunday. UCLA have been the national champions 3 times. And if you want to be a pro, lots of people would say they would go to UCLA. So you go to UCLA for a year, then you go to the league. Do UCLA get anything like fiscally? No. Do they find it easy to recruit? I would imagine so.
And how do they recruit? So say now you want a new striker, for example. How do you go to recruit? Do you have to pick someone from within the university?
So there are two primary ways that we recruit. One of them is through youth soccer. So the other part of this ecosystem would be like youth soccer, and once you get to 18, you go to college. But we work 2 years out. So a couple of months ago, we were signing people for 2027. So you would commit to come to University of Nebraska, but you wouldn't actually land on campus for 2 more years. The other way, and this has come about maybe 6 years ago, is a transfer portal. So on most college rosters, there's 28 people. And whether you have a good season, a bad season, you don't like where you're at, you want to be close to home, you think you can get more money, you would enter the transfer portal, and that would be a way to move between colleges.
Interesting. Is it, when you see the sign up people for 2 years' time, is that on a scholarship, or have they got to pay? Do you go to university stuff?
So it depends. There are a few different levels, right? Like so, the University of Nebraska is Division 1. Then there's Division 2, Division 3, and AIA. The vast majority of women now at the Division 1 level get scholarships, and then within the Division 1 level, there's another category called Power 4. Those are the universities with big football programs. It's getting to a space now where the vast majority of those people don't pay a lot, if anything.
And is it the same for coaches? Like, how do they identify coaches for recruitment, if that makes sense? Like, how do they go, I want Dan Ball, I want him to be my goalkeeping coach. How does that work out? How does that come about? Like,
I would hope someone would say Dan Ball's pretty good at his job. Dan Ball's the person that you need.
Are they watching you, did they send scouts to watch coaches or to...
No. Like that's a network, right? So when I was at a smaller school, I think I did decently well and got an opportunity to go to a bigger school. It's very similar to it would be back home, right? Like I imagine the closest football league team to me would be Gillingham. You know, if I went to work at Gillingham and the goalkeepers at Gillingham did a brilliant job, like I might get an opportunity to go to Charlton. And then if my manager went from Charlton to Fulham, like he would probably take me. That's exactly the same thing that happened with me. I was at a smaller Division 1 school. My boss took a job at a bigger Division 1 school, and then I got a phone call asking if I wanted to go to the professional league, so I did that.
Interesting. I'm going to jump to some questions a second, if that's okay with you both.
Yeah.
First one for Matty Angel. Yeah. Does Dan have any aspirations on coming back to the UK to coach?
There's one job that I think nothing in the world would compare to. I had so a year and a half ago, I worked in LA for Angel City. We had 22,000 people at every game. Like, it would be the sun setting over downtown LA. It was pretty magical. The only thing that I think could compare to that would be, for me, coaching England. Right? I think standing at Wembley with the national anthem would be, I don't think anything would get better than that. My mentor as a goalkeeper coach his name is Tim. He's the head of coaching for the FA. But the other thing to navigate in this is that this has become my home now.
Yeah.
Like, whilst I'm on a visa, I've been here 15 years. This is everything that I know. I've got a girlfriend here. I've been with my girlfriend for 6 years. Like, when I come back home, it feels weird.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a chance. Like, the concept of coaching for one of the big teams back home, the Chelsea and Arsenal or Man United, something like that would be interesting. There was about a 2-week window last year that I thought I might be moving to Paris with my girlfriend to work for a team, which would have been, that was really exciting. But I'm at a place now where lifestyle is quite important.
Yeah.
And there's something about being out here which I think is really difficult to find back home.
In regards to that, I mean, obviously, is UEFA licenses and stuff up there, or is it a separate thing?
It's a brilliant question. So something that UEFA realized, or the US realized, is that licensing, both in Europe and the US, is very different approaches. So I found myself coaching in the NWSL without a coaching license. Like, when my first year in the NWSL, I coached Carly Lloyd. She won the Ballon d'Or. She scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final. But I was 28, she was 38, and I didn't have any coaching licenses. That wouldn't exist in Europe, right? You would have to go and get UEFA B, UEFA A, and if you're a goalkeeper coach, you'd have to get UEFA B goalkeeping and UEFA A.
That's right.
Over here, licensure is finally becoming licensure. Like, it was always a professional, the approach was professional development, because I'm a walking example that you didn't need a license to coach at the best level, at the highest level. And now finally, you won't get a look at those jobs unless you possess either a US soccer B or A license or a UEFA B or A license. The tough part is the schedules don't really align. So I could get on my UEFA B course, but I'd have to go most likely to Scotland, Northern Ireland or Wales and be away for a week. And in the season, that's really tough to do.
Because there was you mentioned about the licensing and stuff. Wasn't it I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the English gentleman who was coaching out in France, and is he the Southampton manager?
Will Still. He had no license. And he was getting fined every
year. Pro license. Every game it cost him 10 grand, I think, because he didn't have his pro license. Yeah.
Blimey. So
is it? Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, go on. It's fine.
I know the UEFA license, if you're not an ex-professional, it's quite expensive to do over here, obviously. Is it quite expensive in America if you're not an ex-professional as well to do?
Yeah. I think lots of places would pay for your licensing. So when I was at Angel City, they paid my B license. At the University of Nebraska now, and I 3 weeks ago put in for my A license. And if I get accepted onto that, like the university will pay for it. Are they expensive? Sure. Like the A license is $4,500, but you have to go on site 3 times. So if you live in California, you got to fly to Kansas City 3 times. There's probably another $1,500. Like you're probably looking at 6 or 7 grand to get your A license over here. And then there's the pro license, right? The pro license over here is $10,000. But I imagine at that point the club is definitely paying for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're not committed to it. You'd expect that to be the case, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what I was going to ask was, obviously, you're assistant coach of the ladies team at the minute. Is that the whilst out in the US, and not to put you on the spot, mate, but is that what you would primarily want to focus on, as in coaching ladies football, or would you?
I have no ambition to coach men's soccer. No. I think that the men's game is saturated with people, and there is a space in the women's game to truly affect change. I think with the ascendancy investment in women's sports around the world, opportunities are going to continue to pop up. And I think that women's goalkeeping is a wildly underappreciated position, like wildly underappreciated.
Yeah.
And I think that being able to impact that position affects teams, both like results and seasons. And it's something that I found great value with over the last 7 years at this point, probably.
Yeah, that's fab. And, I'm a million miles away from where you are, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of grassroots coaching, so I'm fortunate I coach 2 teams. I coach my daughter's football team, and I coach my son's football team as well. So very, very different approaches, etc. And I only started with my daughter's team half a dozen months ago, and it's so refreshing. I find it's so refreshing, just so much about it. It's got that. It's almost more relaxed, I find. Granted, she is a year or so younger than him, but it just seems so different, even at that younger age. And I can't fault you for that, mate. That's quality. I love it.
Well, one thing I'll ask as well is I read a lot of this now. When you got small children, they want to play football. I read something about they got to pay a lot of money to get into academies and stuff. Is that a big issue? Because there's got to be a lot of missed talent up there because of things like that.
Yeah, I think that a major difference between both countries is sport in the UK is it's not so much a business, right? There's definitely a business element. Over here, it's a big business. There's no doubt about it. Like if you could be 14 or 15 in this country, and your parents have got to spend $6,000 to $10,000 a year on your travel and your uniforms and coaching fees. That doesn't exist back home. I remember paying £5 a week to play for Chatham Town in the Ryman League, and that's ultimately. I see a question in the comments. That's a huge thing that has got to be addressed, because I think you're right. I think other countries have caught up as a result of the lack of barrier to entry.
You Rob? Oh, there's some other questions in the chat as well. Yeah, it's a good one actually. Do you think with the facilities you've got over there that the US national team should be performing better? I know the women's team are probably one of the best in the world right now, but the men's team seem to always underperform, especially when it comes to major tournaments.
Yeah, I don't think it's facilities. I think it's the sport in relation to the country is still pretty young, and the sport back home is everything, right? Like you would argue that rugby comes second, and I wouldn't know what comes after rugby, like cricket. Whereas in this country, soccer is maybe fifth, and thus I think that the more notoriety it gets, the more visibility it gets on leagues and on TVs, the more people will pay attention, and the more people that pay attention, the greater the fan base will become, and with that fan base, hopefully comes investment. But it will take a long time. Like US, the FA committed probably 12 or 13 years ago now to making a big difference, and I think you've seen that the English men's, women's, and youth teams benefit. The US is behind in that respect, but it's behind not through lack of investment, just as a result of the relative youthful nature of the sport in this country.
And what is soccer like over there? I mean, over here now, I go to a away game, I'm segregated from fans.
Mm.
There's a lot. It's very tribal over here, and obviously, is it similar over there? Is there the same sort of?
No, that doesn't really exist in soccer. Like fandom is pretty epic over here, but it's not violence. Not really the word I'm looking for. But tribal is probably a great term. It's nowhere near as tribal, especially MLS and WSL. There's no doubt there's sects of people that want to make it a little bit different. But no, it's way more family friendly.
I'm talking about the league. The league system. Do you think they'd benefit from relegation and promotion setup? Because I know there's always been talk of it's like a safety net for failure sort of thing, where they know they're going to stay in the league and they're not going to get relegated. Do you think that needs to be changed?
Yeah, but I think that it would be naive to think that the way to get this country on board is to shift system when all the other major sports don't follow that.
Right.
And that's the really tough part, is that the MLS and NWSL contend for viewership with the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and having some level of continuity of system, I don't doubt in some respects helps the MLS get fans.
I get you. Because I know there seems to be a big shift lately over here with American ownership. And then there's talks of things like taking league games to America, having a north and south divided. I don't want to say it's trying to Americanize the English game, but it seems to be trying to bring some ideas across, which I think, like you said, over here, fans want to get on board with. So I suppose I can understand what you're saying with relegation might not be the thing over there. Like,
yeah, I'm not too sure it's to Americanize it. I think that Wrexham's a great example of this. There is 360 million people in this country. 345 of them have got no idea about soccer or football, and thus it's a hugely untapped market that the only way you're going to get people to pay attention is to bring it. So an example is now lots of Premier League teams come here and do pre-season and I'm sure that's a Premier League thing in the way to drive viewership, because then they can renegotiate TV deals as a result of viewership and get more money, and then the salaries go up. I just saw I had a notification pop up on my phone that Thibaut Courtois is frustrated La Liga are playing a game in Miami.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's unfair, and he's right. But I think the longer I've existed in this sphere, you want sport to be nothing more than the purest nature. Who's better? Who's going to win? But the reality is, it's a business. It's a business.
I think that's the worry. I mean, one of them teams is going to be classed as a home team, but you're losing home advantage. It's different, and again, that could have big implications come the end of the season. I mean, it's like if Cardiff play Swansea now, it's in say Nebraska, we'd lose our home advantage, we lose the atmosphere we generate, and it's sort of like 2 away games then, and I think it could have a massive implication on the league as a whole as well. I think that's the big worry.
How much have you guys paid attention to the NFL being played in London?
I don't really watch the American football. I know there's games over here, but I think is that a league system over there, or is it like a mini run tournament?
So I suppose my point here is, when I left to come to the US, I had no idea about the NFL, and neither did anyone in my family. Now, if you ask my 2 cousins about the NFL, they'll be able to name you half the teams. And I think every other year they'd go to London to watch the games. And it's just recognition that the commercialization of sport you have to go beyond the parameters of the borders of your country if you want to increase viewership and revenue. And the NFL have done that brilliantly, and Wrexham have done that brilliantly. Like Wrexham, if you sent a questionnaire out to everyone in this country and gave 10 teams and you put Wrexham as a team, I guarantee you that 75% of people that return the questionnaire would be able to name Man United and Wrexham, which is mind-blowing.
That's what I was going to ask you about that. Like, how much impact as the ownership back in, obviously the TV series and things like that, how big has that made Wrexham over in the US? I'm assuming it's obviously by response there is quite inevitable.
Well, it was so big that they came out here and did preseason, right? Yeah, they came out. They did preseason in San Diego. Like these docu-series are becoming a huge thing, so much that the team that I was coaching at in the NWSL did a 3-part docu-series that was on Hulu. It is crazy how the right ownership model, getting that brand in the right vehicle, and that vehicle driving it into people's phones and minds, can drive at the very minimum like knowledge that the team exists, and that knowledge turns into viewership, and that viewership turns into money.
That's something we've said about Cardiff, the right ownership, the right model. But I don't know if you know much about our ownership, but it's been an absolute a shit show, to be honest. With the changing the colours, changing the badge, try changing the name to Cardiff Dragons from the Cardiff City Bluebirds. So yeah, I totally agree with
the red, right? You guys went from red to blue?
Yeah.
Blue to red, unfortunately. And there was a long period of time with that happened. We got red seats in the stadium. It's, again, the right ownership could do wonders. Unfortunately, we haven't got that, have we? But
yeah, there was obviously rumours of Gareth Bale, as people in the US, I'm assuming people in America, obviously I'm assuming you know about Gareth Bale down anyway, but people in the US probably quite familiar with him playing out over, was it LA Galaxy he played?
He played for LAFC.
Yeah. LAFC, sorry, apologies, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that was just smoke and mirrors. I don't think anything was ever going to come of that. But I mean, that could have been something. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, shall we say, the last few years, to say the least. I may have missed it. I've got a feeling I might know the answer to this because I think you used them as a reference. But what is your UK team then, Dan?
Gillingham are not my team.
They're not.
No. When I lived back home, I actually say I was a Man United fan.
Okay.
But I've lived in this country now that I don't really follow a team back home. I don't understand fandom when you can't visit them. And I didn't grow up going to Man United games. So I would much rather on a Saturday watch college football than I would watch the Premier League.
I can understand that. I think I can sort of see where you're coming from.
I'm here. I see it. I'm sure you guys go to Cardiff games of a weekend, right?
Yeah.
You grew up doing it. I didn't grow up doing it. So with a little distance and it become like a little friction, I suppose, in that process, I found something else to fill that gap.
I get that, yeah. Some good questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to jump into them now and talk about rivalries and things like that. Again, I'm sorry with my issues if I missed it, but is there a sense of rivalry between teams and things like that? Is it that, like for example, the LA teams? How intense is the rivalry between them? Is it like sorry to use the British reference again, but like a Manchester derby, for example, where it's the fans can't be near each other and things like that.
No, but that's because the history doesn't exist. Like I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you when the MLS was founded, but I can tell you that Man United, Man City, Birmingham, Aston Villa, Celtic, Rangers, Fenerbahce, Galatasaray have been around for years, and thus in 40 years' time, the rivalry between LAFC and the Galaxy will be more entrenched, but people will then still compare it to Rangers Celtic, and it won't compare. But there's no doubt about it. Like if you were to Google who played LAFC played San Diego a few months ago, and there were some pretty ugly scenes in the stands from that game. So it's becoming more intense. There's no doubt about it, especially on the West Coast, where there is a large South American population, understanding of the game, and the game lives in people's veins in a way that it might not in other sects of the locations around the country.
Do your universities have rivalries? Do you have a local derby? I would say a local derby, but do you have derbies?
I actually think that college sports might be a more ferocious rivalry, and often those rivalries are connected to the football or basketball program, but. And this will be the other thing to kind of explain about university. This country is massive, right? It's huge. And there are 32 MLS teams and 32 NBA teams and 30 NFL teams. But that still leaves markets that don't have a team. And that's where college sports fill a really powerful gap. So yeah, the University of Nebraska has got a rivalry against Colorado, who is the state to our left, or Iowa, which is the state to our right. And then when we used to be in another conference, the Big 12, the rivalry was Oklahoma. And the part that makes rivalries a little different in this country is that Birmingham and Aston Villa, you could throw a tennis ball, right? Or Cardiff Swansea, I'm sure is like a big thing. But you could be in the car in 25 minutes and be at the stadium. In this country, like Colorado, their stadium's 6.5 hours west. Or like Iowa City, Iowa's 4 hours east. I mean, you guys, you could be in Calais in 4 hours. So
you could do a round trip to Germany at that time.
Yeah, you could.
Well, I did the Cardiff Swansea away game last season. I live in Talbot, so I live in the middle of a both. I had to go from Talbot to Cardiff to get a bus to be escorted by police to Swansea, past my house, because it's the only bubble left. And obviously, I don't think America will ever get like that. But to think like through that 6 hours one way to get a police escort all the other way, that'd be ridiculous. I mean, for Derby, like
you see this, see the Russell Martin stuff a couple of weeks ago. Rangers, like he had to be snuck out, like that. There's definitely an element of vitriol that can exist in this country when things aren't going their way because people are putting their money like into tickets and stuff. But that seriousness I haven't witnessed in this country for sure.
Yeah, and I don't encourage that in the slightest. That's just I'm all for supporting your team and being proud and wholehearted, but that's just different level dog shit. 100%. I want to jump to a couple of comms as I'm very well away for the time. From halftime oranges, where's the level in football between the two nations? How do you think City would fare against LA Galaxy, for example? So Football League, what's the capacity between Football League teams here in the UK to the MLS, effectively?
Yeah, I think the top of the MLS is probably quite strong. I think the bottom of the MLS is not very strong. I think the MLS, it's a tough comparison because the MLS is a salary capped league, right? I know there is financial fair play in the UK, but there is no one in the MLS that's making 350, 400 grand a year like Erling Haaland, and with that should come some level of superiority on the field. And that's going to be an interesting space to see if this country does evolve. Like, do they remove the salary cap and make it a little bit of a free-for-all? But there's no doubt that the gap is closing, but there'll always be a gap. There's no doubt about it. And I actually think that the reason that the gap exists is the lack of coherent governance, I suppose. Like the FA, a long time ago, made a commitment to unify or oversee the game. And that has only recently happened with US soccer in this country, but US soccer don't oversee college soccer. So there are so many different vying entities for power that it makes it a really different and challenging ecosystem to operate in.
How familiar are you actually with the men's national team and the players involved in that?
Yeah, but I might be a great example of this. I could talk about the women's national team for 5 hours. I could name 2 players on the men's national team in this country.
It's because we've got an American keeper at the club now. He's out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, Ethan Horvath.
Yeah. He's a journeyman.
I want to be respectful.
You do some of your coaching, Dan.
I want to be respectful. It's not worked out for him at all at the club. I mean, it's not worked. It's probably best if he does move on and go elsewhere and see if it works elsewhere. It doesn't seem to be working at Sheffield Wednesday. The few of the fans like that. Is it? I don't know to ask this, but is it difficult going to another country to play and still trying to put the performances in compared to if you're from that country? Because I don't see mentally it must be tough. 2 or 3 bad games, all of a sudden I'm in another country. That must play on you somehow. While my family's back home.
Yeah, I'm sure it's challenging, but then you also have to look at prep to travel. So I'll give an example. I'm going to use goalkeepers as the example. If you look at like England's goalkeepers, England 10 years ago committed to we have to develop the goalkeepers, and what they did was people went out on loan and they played, 100 games before they would make an appearance in the Premier League. That level of competition doesn't exist or didn't exist in this country in a way that traveling to Europe, where you argue that the standard is higher, not only is the standard higher, but the standards from fans are higher, that would come with a pressure that is immeasurable. And thus, I think you'll start to see that gap close as academies, MLS academies in this country start to invest more money. But there will always be a jump. And I also think that there is this like subconscious bias that the US is not as good as the British people at soccer. And that will be a weight that US players have to bear when they go to the country. Like when I think of US players that have come to the UK and done well, it's Brad Friedel, it's Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, maybe for a second at Everton.
Tim Howard.
Yeah, Tim Howard, and then Brian McBride.
Decent time. It's funny because we've had two Americans at the club in the past few years. Eddie Johnson, a striker. Again, he was a fan favourite. His work rate and work ethic was through the roof. Like, you couldn't fault his work ethic. He would run non-stop through. He did lack, I think, the finishing touch. I think a few of the players he played with said the same thing. He wasn't quite at the level, but he made up for it in other ways. I think when it comes to keeper, it's such it's a unique position there, because if you make a mistake, it costs you as a keeper. A striker makes a mistake, he gets 4 or 5 chances to rectify it. I think we've seen our keeper make a few 20 mistakes. I think his head might have dropped, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't say it was because he's American. The fans didn't quite take to him. I think you can see with some players, they seem to you see the effort a bit more, I think, that's all.
Yeah, quite possibly. I also think goalkeeper coaching in this country has got a lot better in the last 5 or 6 years, but is not overseen in a way where there is governance and curriculum, and it's a bit part and coast to coast. And I think that also probably lends itself to the reason why.
I want to chuck something to you, if I may, mate, in terms of your goal coaching, keeping business. What's your style? So obviously we see the modern day goalkeeper is not just a goalkeeper who can save shots. The goalkeeper is much more than that these days. Over here, they're a good footballer as well. They can use both feet and they can be a useful outfield outlet. I just want to know your thoughts on that. Is that something you try to instill with your coaching? Are you a big fan behind that, or like for me personally, I'd rather be a keeper as a basic, as you like, save the shot, save the team, and distribute nicely personally. But I just want to know your thoughts on that.
I think if I would like someone to describe the goalkeepers I work with as not an outlet from pressure, but an option in possession, someone that makes it onto the opposition scouting report as you adjust for us, not someone that you press. Principally, the goalkeeper should have positively affect games and season outcomes. There's no doubt about that. You want a goalkeeper that's going to come and affect the game aerially. But I'm doing my job right if you have to talk about the goalkeeper and what you must play away from them. I think that's a really important detail. I think if you were to watch one of my sessions, you can watch it on YouTube, the ball rolls 75% of the time, because I think the ball rolls 75% of the time in a game. And if the ball is rolling, there is coaching to be done. So I don't think that in sessions there should be lines. I don't think there should be many cones. I think practice should be as representative and connected to the game as possible, because ultimately my job is to create transfer from practice in the week to game at the weekend. And it makes no sense for there to be lines, waiting, and too much structure.
Awesome.
Also, on that, what's your thoughts on playing out from the back? I know you said you rather you don't focus on that, but is that like from the head manager down, like I want the keepers play from the back? Do you have to prepare things like that? Is that something you have to work on then, or?
We're probably a little bit more direct of a team, but there's also, you have to recognise personnel. Like, what personnel do you have? What's best for the team in the short run? Where do you want to go in the long run? How do you design sessions to coach for performance at the weekend, but development for the future? And then as you work 2 years out recruiting goalkeepers, you've got to have an eye as to succession planning and how that might affect the way that you go play. There's no doubt about it. When I spoke with John about coming here, I think the goalkeeper should be involved in the game, but not to the detriment of the team. And if you don't possess a goalkeeper that is going to make it onto scouting reports positively, then you probably should play with the ball. So yeah, I think there's a level of pragmatism, and I think that really good coaches are not just married to one thing. You have to look at the personality you've got, who you're going to play, and but also recognizing that you need to have an identity, and it's unfair to the players in your team if week to week you shift for the opponent.
So it almost seems forced sometimes. You see some clubs and some teams, they're almost trying to play the Pep Guardiola way, if you like, and you're doing it with keepers and players who, you see it in, like, even below Cardiff League and League Two, National League, etc., and they're trying to force this mantra of playing from the back and the keeper is the first attacker, which is fine if you've got the ability to do it. But if in doubt, like, this is why I teach my kids at a young age when I'm coaching, is don't mess around with it. Just if you have to go long, you go long and get rid. Like, you don't need to mess about. And if you're not capable of holding onto the ball and playing from the back, then don't force the issue. That's how I feel like it is. There just seems to be more and more teams these days, professional clubs, are smashing that in, and I don't think it works, for everybody.
We played one of the best teams in the country on Sunday, and technically they were fantastic. They bought the ball around, but they also would go long from time to time to soften you up. And I think the skill in coaching is that if you're going to go long, what's the plan? Like, how do you get support in and around the ball?
Yeah.
What are the details? Because there's definitely something to be said. There's definitely something to be said for playing a more direct game. But the women on our team and the people that I've coached want more than let's go direct. So what space do we look into play? Where do we think we can regain the ball? And what do we do when we regain the ball?
Excellent. You mentioned about the videos, mate. So have you got is it a YouTube channel you've got, or is it a website?
Yeah. On YouTube, I've posted a lot of my sessions when I coached in WSL, and then we have some pros come here twice a year, and those are on YouTube. So if you YouTube Daniel Ball, goalkeeper coach, I'm sure it'll be the first thing to come up.
I'm just going to whack it in the comments just so I know for a further reference for myself as well, and for the beautiful people watching along as well. So thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Are there any names in the team now that we should be looking out for the next Women's World Cup or the one after, maybe?
We have a Canadian international player, Sadie Waite. She's pretty special. We have a couple of our seniors in Reagan Rabe. There's a decent chance that she becomes professional. And then there are a couple of younger players that I won't apply pressure to.
Do you find it easier to work with, I would say, younger players rather than senior ones? Is there a difference?
No, I actually candidly prefer working in the professional game. There's a directness that can exist. But coming back to college for this last 6 months has been really interesting, eye-opening, and I think periodically shifting the environment that you work in to kind of bring to your attention spaces that you have to refine and grow is a healthy thing to do.
Just want a quick one. I know we're running very quickly out of time, so sorry, Dan, mate. Jess Fishlock, how big is Jess out in the US? Obviously, she's recently announced her retirement from the international level. Obviously, absolute legend of the women's game over here in Wales. Huge career, and she's a reason why I definitely believe a lot of ladies over here has got into football. How big is she over in the US?
Jess in the NWSL is widely regarded as one of the best players. I had the privilege of coaching against Jess
Class.
8 to 10 times, and when Jess is on the field, you have to recognize and plan for that. And then when you plan for it, she's good enough to unpick your plan. She just scored a goal last weekend, actually. I think that Jess has had a stellar career. You was talking about even Hovarth, the goalkeeper, to come to this country and to do it for as long as she's done it at the level that she's done it. As the league has evolved, as she's played on different surfaces, as she's had to travel, and she's been really passionate and kind of steadfast in her travel back to play for Wales.
Yeah.
See, Wales didn't do great in the Euros, but I think it was her dream to represent Wales at the Euros.
And she scored as well, didn't she? I think.
To do that from Seattle, like the furthest most point in this country, is incredible, and she deserves the plaudits that she gets. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's the first time qualifying for the major tournament for the ladies as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was huge, and you know, it was a horrible group Wales had. Don't get me wrong. I did watch it, and I think it was it England, Holland, was it Germany? I think
Switzerland or something.
It was somebody. Yeah,
it
was. Excuse me, sorry. It was literally 3 of the best teams in the world, I think, or 3 in the top 10, something like that. But yeah, for Wales to qualify, we talk about Welsh men's football qualifying for major tournaments. Welsh women's football qualifying for a tournament is something else. And I'm glad she's as highly thought of as I was hoping she would be. So that's fab. Reese, whilst my Wi-Fi dipped out, mate, did you jump into any of the questions, buddy?
I only asked Angel's question about the facilities and should the team be performing better. There was a good one from Paul and jumpers for goal posts, actually, with the World Cup coming up.
Yeah, fab. We'll smash through them quickly, and then I won't keep you much longer. Sorry, Dan, mate. From Paul, what could British schools or grassroots learn from the way they go about teaching sports in the US?
I can't talk much about teaching sports. I operate at a bit of a different level in which we run, for all intents and purposes, like an elite high performance development team that's connected to a university. Like when we recruit players, I don't have much knowledge as to the academic programs at our school. Like the two are connected. I do think that, and this is a testament to other parts of the world, I think the gap in the women's game to the US has closed dramatically over the last 5 or 10 years as a result of investment in the UK, in France, in Spain, in Germany. It used to be that the US was dominant and no one could touch them. And I think as you look over the last 10 years, the US's results in major tournaments, they've not been the same. And I think that's because other countries have chosen to invest at a younger level and are reaping the rewards.
Is there anything they could do to prepare the youngsters for that step up into elite level? Is there something they could do?
I don't think it's schools. I think it's investment from clubs. There was a controversy around Man United women and the women not having an appropriate training facility, given the resources that Man United have. When you get off here, you guys need to Google Kansas City current training facility. Money is not in short supply in sports in this country, and thus the resources that exist are put into things that people will make a difference, and kind of becomes aspirational for young people to want to be a part of. I think the other thing that we're going to start to see in this country and in the UK is that playing women's sports for a long time was like a bit of a social movement, but now it's a career. Like you can make a lot of money playing professional women's sports. Like you can change the way that you live forever. It's not necessarily just a part-time thing where you would play for your team and work as a baker. Now, like as we're talking about Jess Fishlock. Jess has just made a great living as a result of the sport, and that's only going to continue to grow as more eyes watch it, as you watch it on ESPN, as you watch it on CBS and NBC, as WSL just signed a deal with Nike and Apple. In 10 years' time, it's like women's sports are going to be notably larger than they are right now.
I think the problem they're going to view, there's a massive jump between the Women's Super League and the teams below. I think Reading folded, didn't they? Reading ladies folded. I think Birmingham ladies were close to folding. I think Cardiff ladies split today. There was Cardiff Dragons and Cardiff ladies. It's 2 separate ones. Yeah. Like a lot of struggle financially in the women's game view. That's not in the Super League.
The club that I work for in LA just sold 5-6 months ago. It valued at $350 million. No knock on Cardiff women's, but like they're not getting $350 million. Someone's not buying in for $50 million. And I think as you look at the WSL back home, the teams that have done brilliant, i.e. Chelsea and Arsenal, have put a lot of money in.
Yeah.
They can attract talent. They can attract coaches. The facilities and infrastructure. You know, there was a player that just left Angel City to go play for Chelsea. That's brilliant for the WSL.
Yeah. I think a lot more is going to be done with the line between the men's football representing the teams and the ladies representing the teams as well. You know, of course, Cardiff City Football men's team is not in a power position to pump millions and millions of pounds into it, but more can be done, and that's just obviously one example.
Aren't Everton playing at Goodison Park? Like Everton women's?
Yeah, I got a feeling that. I think you're right, mate. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's a huge thing for. I mean, Everton women played at the training ground last year at like a makeshift stadium. Now they'll play at Goodison Park, which is a huge thing for their recruitment. Suddenly it becomes a day out for fans and families. And that's the other part. I think football in the men's Premier League is might not be the best place to take a family. And actually, women's sports right now offer a bit of a bridge gateway for young people to get into sport in a slightly more family environment that hopefully kind of helps grow the game.
I want to end with one more quick one, Reece, unless you've got something quickly a second.
No, all I was to say, so, but like I said, on the Wrexham documentary, you've seen the Wrexham ladies and second a playing field. Because over years, obviously, the Welsh leagues are set up, so it's just all Welsh teams only. We don't play the English teams.
Yeah.
So obviously, how important is it to play against the best teams all the time? The money may not be there, but for individual development, playing against the best teams, how important is that?
Yeah, I think it's important, but I think you also you got to play against relative skill as well. There is a bit of controversy going over here right now around some teams that are just dominant, and the approach that outside looking in for the WSL was always that the top few teams are brilliant and the bottom teams weren't great. And actually, I think you've seen some parity over the last couple of years, and it becomes competitive, and that's ultimately what people want to watch. Like when they watch sport, they want it to be competition, not domination, and thus I think it would take really good leadership and ownership to make sure that these leagues are structured in a way that is competitive, but also realistic, and people can elevate out of it, knowing that when they climb, they play against better talent. There's more money involved. Audiences go up, the same way that the Football League exists.
Fab. I want to end on one quick one from Jumpers for Goalposts, if I may. Hi, Dan. Has the impending World Cup schedule affected your personal coaching world? What percentage of Division 1 college players would make it to the national team status, for example?
Yeah. So the World Cup will be massive for this country. There's a little controversy around that as well. Like the president's made some comments around being able to just move games. The World Cup will be great for this country, but I don't think you'll feel the ramifications of the World Cup for 10 years. I think it'll be a great event that will last a month, and then people will move on. And in 10 or 15 years' time, people will look back at the World Cup and go, that was a catalyst for growth in this country. In the same way, I don't think you can truly feel the ramifications of leadership change in the office of the president immediately. Like the country's too big for that. And to the question around Division 1 making it to the national team, if you were to look at the current division and the current women's national team, Fallon played at Miami, Mandy McGlynn played at Virginia Tech, Claudia Dickey played at North Carolina. You've got to imagine that 75-80% of the women's national team play Division 1 sports, but of Division 1 athletes that make it to the national team, it's a minuscule percentage. There are 330 Division 1 women's soccer teams, and there are 28 professional national women's team players. So it's going to be less than 1%, that's for sure.
Yeah. Amazing. Listen, cool. Thank you all. Anything else to add, Reece, before we wrap up?
No, that was brilliant. That was.
Honestly, awesome. Thank you all so much in the chat, guys. Lots of beautiful questions and comments. Much appreciated. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can become an Ace Podcast Nation member. Get early access to shows, such as the event coming up on Friday with Sean Morrison. I think there's still a couple of tickets left, so be sure to check that out. Reese, always an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you for arranging this. Dan, absolute amazing, mate. I really, really, really appreciate this evening. It's been absolutely so insightful and eye-opening and just really engaging. So I'm a massive fan of this, mate. So thank you for taking time out of your day. I appreciate obviously the time difference and stuff as well, mate. So really appreciate it. Back to work now. Oh, well, didn't use up too much of your lunch break, mate. No, thank you all ever so much. I think who's on tomorrow, Reece? Do you remember?
I think it's Evan, maybe tomorrow.
I don't know. Check your socials, have a look. You've all
Yeah,
you check your socials out, and you'll see it all anyway. But thank you all so much again. Good night. God bless and goodbye, my friends.
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the Spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.